to me, I think this album is gonna age amazingly. Amazingly. I think when we look back 5 months, 5 years to this project, this is gonna be a moment that will be remembered by music lovers, but in music in general. I think this is gonna be an album that changed the trajectory of R&B. I think that R&B hasn't done anything like this in a long time.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, I really feel that way. I think this is gonna change the trajectory of R&B. Good afternoon, beautiful people. Welcome back to Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, how that album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Leave us a comment, please and thank you. And of course, make sure you're subscribed. On our way to 5,000. You're helping us get there. My name is Adriel Smiley, a.k.a. AdrielSmiley.com, a.k.a. Adriel Smiley Official, a.k.a. The Godfather. We're here with His Royal Highness, a.k.a. The Bunny, King Grant.
What's happening, people? We're back. This time, we're here with Lucky Daye. Algorithm is the name of the album. Black and White. He's one of those people that, I'm going to be honest with you, this is the first time I've ever listened to a Lucky Daye album all the way through.
That actually makes the most sense in the world.
Right?
Of all the albums you suggested we do, like this, everything about you adds up right now.
I've heard songs here and there because you're able to go through your like old like songs on Spotify. And I've had songs from like 2019, 2020, 2021. So I've had like it's like a kind of like a fragmentation of Lucky Daye's music. And I've obviously heard him featured on, there's so many artists that we just listen to, not even just review, just like listen to in general, where he's featured on. So I had a picture of what I thought his music sounded like in my head. And I feel like this album, I don't know if it's different from again, I haven't heard the previous albums, right? So I don't know if this either shattered my perception or everybody's perception at the same time. Because when I hear him on other albums, very much R&B vibe, very relaxed, giving some vocals, right? But when I'm listening to Algorithm, which I would say is more of a rock, R&B, pop, Steve Lacy type of vibe. I was like, what the fuck? This is the type of music this guy makes?
No, this is new for him. My friend Bridget, who you know, we're both not huge.
Our friend Bridget? What do you mean?
Sure.
Like claim to Bridget?
I knew her first. Okay. I'll take claim to her. So I guess starts fighting over Bridget. But we both are not huge Lucky Daye fans. We're both huge R&B fans, but Lucky Daye just hasn't been our speed. We haven't liked any of his projects really. And when he put the singles out for this album, I sent them to her, like we were talking about the videos, and she said, this is so unlike him. These are actually good.
Oh, wow.
And so when you say like confused, like we were also confused. we were like, these are actually decent singles. Is the album gonna be good? Like, so like I was very, very, I don't want to say concerned, but just confused. I did not see this coming for him. I guess you didn't know that he had singles out beforehand. But,
no.
But what do you think about the singles that he did choose? That's You, Hurricane, and Soft.
Hurricane is probably, even though I didn't know that it was a single, it was the most obvious single I've heard in a while, just listening to an album. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a little bit, but again, I wanted this podcast, I wanted you to be the person that leads us because I'm coming in here fresh-faced. This happens sometimes where one of us is fresh-faced and the other person's been listening to the artist for a long time. When I heard Hurricane, I'm like, okay, I thought Lucky Daye was an R&B artist. Like, I thought he was like...
traditional R&B artist.
Yeah, like a contemporary R&B artist where it's like ethereal and it's slow and, he's going to do vocal work and stuff like that. Then I got this song. I'm like, is he like Steve Lacy or what? Like, I don't get it. But I thought it was good. It sounded like a song that I cannot place right now.
Yo, I literally have that in my notes. That's so crazy you said that. Literally in my notes, I have Hurricane reminds me of a song I can't remember.
I can't, yeah.
In the comments, let us know. Because I literally wrote that down. I'm like, I hope you would help me. You obviously can't.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the song it reminds me of. And it's going to bother me, but it reminds me of a song. But I like his choice of singles because I think that him going in this new direction, it was kind of like putting his fans on notice. And I think these singles did a good job of that. I think Hurricane, you're right, is the most like singly like obvious song as a single. You compared him to Steve Lacy. I actually have people I compare him to who are probably even more of this than Steve Lacy. I think Steve Lacy is still closer to R&B than this like rock, pop, R&B. It reminded me a lot of Prince.
Okay.
Prince is someone who came to mind. More like 90s Prince. D'Angelo, Black Messiah, when he learned to play guitar.
When he learned to play guitar.
that was a big thing for him.
Yeah.
So and then Lenny Kravitz. Those are the three people.
Who was the last person?
Lenny Kravitz.
Yeah, I got a lot of Lenny Kravitz.
Those are the three people who I was like, yeah, he's channeling all of those people all over this project.
I got there with Lenny Kravitz as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had like a small like niggling thought in the background where I'm like, I get why people like Steve Lacy, or not Steve Lacy, Lucky Daye, but I also know why people like Steve Lacy.
Yes.
But for this, again, I want to stress for people, I have not listened to his previous albums.
Yes.
So when I listen to this, I'm like, oh, I know why people like Lucky Daye. Sounds like Frank Ocean.
Oh.
Right? Because I was listening to songs like Algorithm or even In Hurricane, where this is like nostalgia ultra Frank Ocean.
That's a good one.
Right?
Yeah.
The early form of Frank Ocean. And people are like just getting almost like a nostalgia revival vibe from it, right? But now you're here telling me he was actually like just really doing like contemporary R&B and this is a switch up.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I guess this is going to bring more people in because it sounds like Frank Ocean.
I hope so. I hope so because I think that this is probably to me his best project. I'm obviously not a huge fan, but to me this is his best project, and he only has a couple of features on here.
Okay.
We know the R&B people don't really get along, don't really work together as much.
Yeah, that's a problem. They should.
But out of the two features, which do you think is the best one?
I think it's Teddy Swims. I think we reviewed Ray's music actually before, which is a little bit of a shocker, just considering I think that she's kind of like further out of bounds of what we usually do.
Yeah.
But I think that Teddy Swims' vocals are really, really fucking good. I think that it also fits this almost like blues vibe that song Blame is going for. Like there's it's a lot of like sadness in the vocals, even though that there's, you know, I would consider a lot of the music about relationships and women and stuff like that. But Blame is a lot of sadness, blame me for this, blame what I do, my ego, blame all this type of stuff. So I think that those vocals fit that aesthetic a lot. That blues, sadness, regret. I love that. I thought that song was really good. I think that feature was awesome.
I actually had Ray for my favorite feature. I like that song better than Paralyzed, but I think Ray's voice on Paralyzed, because it's the only female voice on this project, that it stands out right away. Like right away, you're like, okay, this is like a whole different voice than we've heard before. And I think that it actually fits. You know, that is the song that is the like the light just guitar type of song. You know, there's always gonna have one of those on here. But I think that this project actually complements his voice better than his past music. And so from a production standpoint, I feel like he definitely like hit it on the head with this one.
I think when you mention the song with Ray, Paralyzed, I think I'm just immune to that song. Like, I'm immune to that slow down, just play the guitar. Yeah, I'm immune. Like, it doesn't work on me.
It doesn't work on you.
Because it's so common across artists, not even just like, not even just genres, but just like artists. Like, every artist has to have one. I'm immune. I'm just like, I see through it immediately. Stop doing it, please.
What do you mean you see through it? Like, you just, but I think also you do like the more like upbeat, like party albums. More than I do, so maybe you just want more energy.
I think it's one instrument, right? That song is actually literally just the guitar.
Yeah,
you're not really doing anything special with the guitar, and your vocals. I mean, his vocals, I would say, are really good, but he's not giving me any like for somebody like Arlo Parks.
Yeah,
Arlo Parks is giving me strong songwriting, imagery is off the charts. Right, her vocals aren't as good as Lucky Daye, but those two things are the things that are most important when you're stripping away the production.
What about the emotion? That doesn't mean anything to you? You don't like to feel?
I can get on any song, though. You can get emotional on any song.
Well, I think that's the difference is I think on a song like Paralyzed, the production of that song is supposed to bring out the emotion. I think for some people it does, but for you, you remain dry-eyed.
Yeah.
So I think, you're immune. It doesn't affect you. You're not having one thug tear drop for any of that. the guitars is what I wanted to mention because all the people I talked about, the guitars is a main part of their music, is a main part of this project.
Right.
The first song, Never Leaving You Lonely.
I like that song a lot.
That song is a banger. But that, from a production standpoint, is like a kick in the jaw of like, this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
And I think that it's rare that a song comes on that strong as the intro in terms of like the pace of it, the drum pattern, the guitars, and like it kind of keeps up throughout the album. There are songs that are less than that, but that was such a strong start. It was like, where are we headed? Like, how are you going to keep this energy up? And, you know, I think they do a good job. So I think sequencing one, good on this project.
Yeah, it's stellar.
But I think Never Leaving You Lonely as the intro, a great choice because you have that whole intro that's kind of like, almost like sounds and some like chords and harps type of deals. And then once you actually get to the song starting, it's not a guitar solo, but it's like a guitar only intro before he starts. And again, if you're a Lucky Daye fan, you probably never heard that much guitars on a Lucky Daye album. So to hear that to start the whole album after you kind of like has a little ethereal moment and you're like, okay, where's he going with this? It's like, oh, he's here. This is what he's doing.
What is that sound? It's like,
I'm telling you.
What is that sound?
We spent too much time together because I have that in my notes too. It sounds like a rubber ducky kind of, or like a rubber ducky like being squeezed or like shooting, and I don't know what it is. But I have that in my notes too of like, what is that?
It definitely stood out and it definitely drew me into the song because I'm trying to figure out what the fuck, like what, I'm trying to figure out what makes that sound.
Yes.
And how do you get it inside of your record? I think that is really good. I think the guitars on that are good, especially even on another song, Soft.
Yep.
The guitars on Soft where it has these like flourishes during the chorus. Right, where anytime he ends like a line in that chorus, you hear like the like crash and the guitars, you know, like they're adding extra chords. So I think that the production on this is really fucking good. I don't, again, I am like coming in.
You're shocked.
Because I think for me, I'm jumping in. This is my first time jumping into Lucky Daye.
Chose the right time.
But I'm like, the other, you know, think about the other people he's featured on, right? Like the artists that he's been featured with. We're talking about Megan Thee Stallion, Victoria Monet, Kehlani, Smino.
Yep.
Who else do we have here? Mahalia. Even our guy Khalid.
Yep.
Right? Back in the Scenic Drive, the mixtape that I absolutely adore. Talking about slow, right? Even Megan Thee Stallion, slow. Then there's mostly R&B people. We're talking about Kehlani, Khalid, etc. Right? So that's where I was coming from. I'm like, it's gonna be slow R&B type vibe. And then we're here, we're having flourishes from the band. The guitar's going crazy. We got weird sound effects. I'm like, holy shit! This I'm like so surprised by what was happening. But then I was also surprised by how good it was because I'm like, this is not what I was expecting. Why isn't more people talking about this? That's where I got to that point. I'm like, how come nobody's talking about this? Well, listen,
you have my number. You know I was talking about it. You know I wanted to review this project.
Yeah.
And I think like thinking about the production on this project and where the state of R&B has been, especially for men, we've talked about that a lot in terms of the reviews we've done of whether it's Giveon or Brent Faiyaz, of like, none of these guys sound the same, but how many of these guys have a sound? And I think Lucky Daye, this is different from what he's done in the past, but I think this sound is something that none of the other men in R&B have done. And the person that I thought of, and I have this guy's name in capitals because we've never reviewed any of his albums, but he is the artist I think I would have chose to make this album, is Miguel.
Okay,
and
wow.
Miguel has been away for some time. We haven't heard any music from him, but he was the R&B artist who used guitars the most in his music out of this whole new era. And I'm wondering where is Miguel now, and where does he fit into R&B now? Because I think this would have been the direction, if I'm guessing, Miguel would have gone in with his next project. And now that maybe he still does, but that probably looks a different way. Now Lucky Daye has done it successfully. What's next? That's my big question. What's next for someone like Miguel? Because Miguel is actually the kind of king of R&B of this new era. Right. And while he's been gone, there's been a lot of guys kind of staking their claim. Yeah. Trying to come for his crown. So that's my question. Where do you think someone like Miguel fits in this? Because I thought of him a lot with this project because I've seen him a couple times live. I've listened to all his albums, huge fan of his. This is a direction I felt like he was heading in. If you go from Kaleidoscope Dream to Wild Heart, Wild Heart is like the album before this.
Yeah, I think that we've seen this with somebody like, I want to say, we've seen this with, why can't I think of his name right now? The guy before Travis Scott, I can't think of his name.
The guy before Travis Scott? What does that mean?
Making the same sound, but the guy before Travis Scott. Why can't I remember their name?
That's so
He's making
funny.
Day and Night.
Kid Cudi?
Kid Cudi, right? It was seeming like a, yeah.
Comments? Comments?
I might have to cut that part.
Comments? Don't cut this. Comments?
I might have to cut that. Might get cut.
Comments?
Kid Cudi. So we're seeing this. It's almost like a Kid Cudi situation where
that was wild.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You're not on today.
I know. I got a good amount of sleep too. I just can't remember it. But yeah, I think what could happen, and we've seen this happen with Kid Cudi, is where somebody's leading up to a sound, and then somebody is just like, actually, I'm just gonna take that shit and just like completely morph it.
Yeah.
And whatever you were doing, that was sick, but my shit is sicker, right? And I think that might be happening, could be happening right now with Lucky Daye, where Miguel is like leading up to this, sounded great, right? We love Miguel, right? And then one guy is like, you know what? The thing that you're doing, that was sick, but I'm about to make it sicker, right? And I think that could be happening with Lucky Daye right now. The thing that Kid Cudi missed out on, or kind of wasn't able to like reclaim in any sort of way, was Travis Scott's vocals actually was also an element that lifted that type of psychedelic music in hip hop. I think that if you're Miguel, you're like, okay, maybe I'm gonna try out vocal it.
That's gonna be hard. Lucky Daye's vocals are pretty good on
this. Right? Exactly. Because I'm talking about, he sounds like Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
But you're gonna try to either out vocal it, or you're trying to maybe like make a hit out of this, because Lucky Daye doesn't have like a hit out of this sound.
That was gonna be my point. That's why I brought up Miguel. Is that Miguel was the hit maker.
Yeah.
I think of all the R&B artists, even the ones now, it's like they don't have a hit with every album. It's not a guarantee, like how it was with Usher in the past or Chris Brown early in his career. Miguel was the one person from the 2010s who he would have a hit from every album, you know. And I think that's something that's been missing in male R&B, and that's maybe his chance of kind of reclaiming the sound that Lucky Daye has, is having this, because I think Lucky Daye sonically has a few hits on here, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like there's a few songs on here that I'm like, these could be a hit, but he's not as big an artist.
Yeah, he's really like, for the music head opinion of how like prolific he is, I feel like Lucky Daye is always somebody that like kind of exists and people are aware of him. But I have to always remember, like, we're in the music circles. We're in the circles where people are like, you know who's actually making really good music? Blank person. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think he kind of exists as one of those artists. And he's actually much smaller. I think he only has like 4 million monthly listeners on Spotify. So he's much smaller. So his like breakout hasn't even happened yet, technically. Yeah. He's think of like Chappell Roan.
Yeah.
Right? Like Chappell Roan was like, before December, Chappell Roan, to the vast majority of people, didn't exist. Yep. Right? If you were gay, that's all people were talking about. Yeah. Right? And then now she's blown through the door. Right? And I think that Lucky Daye's kind of also in that like scenario where like all the R&B people
know who he is.
Know exactly who Lucky Daye is, heard all of his music, all that type of shit.
And outside of that,
he doesn't exist.
And I think what that represents to me is where music is as a whole, is that R&B is not pop anymore. I think that R&B used to be pop music. If you look at those TikToks or those videos and they say the top songs from 2004, most of the number one songs are R&B songs. Right. And that is not the case anymore at all. And so in another time, 20 years ago, Lucky Daye is a mainstream artist basically at this point.
Yeah, especially from an album like this.
Right? And I think right now, R&B as a whole genre is the underground. So when you think about artists we mentioned like Giveon and Brent Faiyaz, those guys are basically underground artists. Mainstream and R&B, but from music as a whole, underground. I have only one set of lyrics to get to, so you let me know what you have for lyrics. Cause
wait, you don't have anything else for production? What else? What about like? I think maybe I'm thinking about like the singing.
Yes.
Where, Think Different. This is Think Different is really the song where I'm like, I get it. The Frank Oceanness, I'm seeing it.
I'm happy you said that because I never thought of Frank Ocean with him until you mentioned it.
Really?
No, I can hear it now that you say it, but I never thought about it.
Yeah, I think that was it for me where I'm like, you can, for that song in particular, where I'm like, I see it. Now I know why everybody's talking about Lucky Daye because this guy sounds like Frank Ocean. And when I listen to Think Different, basically, I want to say throughout, in between like the verses, right, where he's starting to sing, where I'm going to give you a part where he's like, hold on, I want to give you the part exactly. Where he's like, next, hope you got what you came for, losing love, playing Love Jones, where do we go? Hell if I know, talk your shit, and I know you'll expect guys, let you run out, right? And I think that this entire sequence kind of reminded, like, the way that the song was being sung, it was more of like a story is happening, reminded me of like Frank Ocean, like Pyramids, or even Super Rich Friends.
Yeah.
Right? Where he's telling like a story of a thing that's happening. So even the songwriting style and then the singing style, I'm like, oh, this is like a Frank Ocean vibe that is happening with everybody. But it's more band-based. Whereas Frank Ocean's music, I feel like, is a fucking kaleidoscope of sounds. Like, you can even think of the songs I mentioned, Pyramids and then Super Rich Kids, don't even sound alike, right?
Yeah, like, I think about that song, Think Different, and Breaking the Bank, where I'm like, he's really using real instruments, or at least replicating real instruments on this project. And I think, like, aside from the heavy use of guitars, like, that stands out to me from the standpoint of, like, most of, I think, R&B of the past, like, 12 years or so is very similar to hip-hop.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's just a little bit slower and you're singing.
Yeah.
But it's basically hip-hop. And this album is one of the few albums where there's not a single song like that. And I think about Breaking the Bank because Breaking the Bank is one of the faster paced songs on here, but it's fast. Like, I'm a drummer, but it's faster paced in the way of like someone actually playing the drums. Like, if you're actually playing the drum, this is how you pick up that pace in a song. And this is something that I don't think someone would program drums like this. Right. This sounds more like if you play drums, you would think of this. But if you're a producer who programs drums, this wouldn't come to your mind. And so I think this gives his album a little more warmth than some of the other albums.
Yeah.
So Breaking the Bank, which is like one of the maybe least soulful songs on here, just from production standpoint.
And then right after that is That's You.
Yeah.
Where it's basically it's a super slowed down, almost like Usher, kind of sounds like Usher.
It's almost like a ballad.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm kind of raving about the sequencing on this project, because Breaking the Bank having warmth while still having a pace allows for you to put That's You after without it sounding crazy.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's like if that song didn't have that warm feeling, it's like beside That's You is almost a jump scare. But they found a way to make it work because in a normal situation, those two together, we would be killing that.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have your? I cut you off before you went into your lyrics, but do you want to talk about your lyrics now?
It's my one set of lyrics. Okay. It's not even him, so it's not even that deep. Yeah. I think lyrically on this project, I kind of was very neutral. There's some storytelling, some heartbreak, but it's not lyrically he's not that different from his past. Okay. So I would say the production has changed, the sound has changed, but lyrically very similar to his past. And he's always been a standout lyrically. That's just something that's he's always had in his career. But on the outro of Think Different, I want to hear what you think about this outro.
Okay.
Because it's asking some questions that I'm like, where else is this on the project? That was really my thing.
Okay.
Is this theme really a theme for the song or for the project? You let me know what you think. On the outro of Think Different, it says, is there power in fear? There is power in fear. I feel like just like rain, you know what I'm saying? In the sun, you gotta have the fear, you gotta have hate, you gotta have love, you gotta have confidence, courage. And I think that sometimes fear triggers just the right amount of courage for you to overcome the thing that you fear. And then you look for another fear. So I guess that in the actual idea, if you look at conquering fear or look at fear as something you can conquer, then you can look at the next fear. you looking for the next goal or like box to check off. You trying to just get to the next level. Mm-hmm. And why I thought of it is the end of checking off the box to get to the next level. Because there was a time in his career when Lucky Daye had no hits. Now he has one. Over.
Okay.
You know, and so that was a box to check off. He checked off the box of one hit. Now this album, which is a totally different sound, a lot of real instrument sounds on here, that's another box. Yeah. And after that, he says, trying to get to the next level. That feels like some kind of self-fulfilling prophecy for himself. And maybe I'm reading into the tea leaves a little too deep. Let me know. But I like him having that on here because it feels like a level of self-awareness. Of like, yes, I'm making money. Yes, I'm popular in my little subsection. But I have many, many steps to go. And so this idea of having fear be the catalyst for that, I think it's interesting because I had almost a similar conversation with my dad about this exact thing last week. Mm-hmm. And so to hear on the album, I was like, clearly everything is aligned. But I want to hear what you think about this concept of fear being a motivator.
Yeah, I think that it, in general in life, I guess it works to a degree because everybody fears something. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, I would love to be you. I feel like that would be an exhilarating experience to have zero fear whatsoever.
I would love to be you.
Yeah, I feel like that would be exhilarating. But I do think that it makes sense to a degree, and especially if you're an artist, there's so much fear that that dictates what they do. Fear of falling off.
Yeah.
Fear of sometimes people are fearing like when their next check is coming, if you've fallen off. Fear of overexposure. Right, somebody like Billie Eilish, has that fear. I genuinely think that she has that fear. Like she's like always visible, and she kind of wants to go away. But then there's also people who they're like, "Oh, is my music getting too stale?"
Yep,
for Megan Thee Stallions, right? And then there's some people who are like, "Maybe I what's my sound?" Right, and then I would go to I don't know. I'm trying to think of all
Megan Thee Stallion.
Not Megan Thee Stallion. There's people who don't have their sound and they're trying to figure out what their sound is. And then there's some people who are like, am I stuck in the sound?
Yep.
The baby.
Yep.
Right? So there's a lot of fear as an artist that you have to navigate. I do think that it does help because, you know, it's a strong emotion and also strong emotions typically evoke interesting music. So I do appreciate him including that. I will say too many fucking intros or outros with like the interludes on his music, like just a smidge.
Who's allowed to have interludes? That's what I want to know. By Demar's rules, who's allowed to have interludes?
I just think it's just a smidge too much. I do like the outro or the interlude on. I think it's Blame, where the guy is like, "Yo, before me, you didn't even have shrimp." Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to find it.
At the end. It's at the end.
It's at the very end. Yeah. But he's like,
at the end of Blame. Want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. He said you didn't even have shrimp.
Do you know? Yeah.
No, I know. I'm pulling it up now. Oh my goodness. The whole thing? Okay, I'll go the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'll try and do it in character. I'm trying to get them to realize and realize and to realize life is bigger than it's big. It's big, big. Bitches be, no, really, it's big. No, it's big. I'm tired of seeing these pretty bitches walking up and down the street like they ain't got nothing. Nothing. They got nothing. Walking, bitch. Why are you walking? Thinking I'm pretty as shit. I try to talk to you, ho, and you don't want to talk to me? I got a pocket full of money. A bank full of money. And you don't want to talk to me? Fuck you. You ain't never a tramp. You're a tramp. You're a tramp. Looking for another motherfucker that's a tramp like you. Fuck that bitch. You need to think big. See, that's the no. The thing is, bitch, you think it's small. When you need to think big, you need to think big, bitch. You need to think big, bitch. Think big, bitch.
Yeah, so that outro, I thought it was just so funny. It was just actually just outrageously funny.
Hilarious.
And I think that sometimes the outros are good. That's what I'm saying. Like, the outros can be good, but sometimes when it gets a little bit much when you're doing it like literally every song for like 4 songs in a row. Right? And that's what happened. So I do like the idea of the interlude.
The idea of it, but
it's just a little bit too much. Too many of them.
You know what? I think we're always going to differ on the interludes. I'm always pro interlude because I realize that not everyone's a music listener like we are.
Yeah.
And the casuals need those interludes to kind of gather what's happening. And some of the best albums of all time are super interlude heavy. And I just think it's a matter of how you feel about a project. I think about Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style.
Mm-hmm.
Like the single, Gin and Juice, has a whole interlude. Like
that is heavily skipped.
for some,
because you want to hear the song though. That's the thing.
For sure. Like putting on the song is a different story, but the album as a whole, those interludes are part of the album. That radio, the stories telling on Murder Was a Case. I think about Dark Twisted Fantasy with Kanye, like those interludes that are on there. So I feel like interludes add a texture to a project more than just the music. And I think that especially like this album, I think is an hour long.
Yeah.
Correct? An hour. I think that's a part of it is like when an album gets over 45 minutes, the interludes help break it up. And I think that for us, we're going to listen regardless.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
An hour of music doesn't faze us. I think for some listeners, like listening to a full album, no matter who it is scary to them.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people who it's like, listening to a full album is like not going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's just the number of songs because when the song is long, it can still work. Like my favorite song, I think my favorite song is Mary.
Okay.
On this, where basically, this is a blues song.
Yes.
This is a blues song where it's so slow and it has that one lick from the guitar, like, meep, meep. And I think that he basically is like, in verse 1, he's like, I got a girl named Amber down in Atlanta, want to take me to dinner because she the breadwinner. Got a girl named Jill, stay up in the hills. She got a lot of skills when she pop a little pill. Got a girl named Ruth from the bayou. What her voodoo do, put a spell on you. And then in his chorus, he's like, Stacy, Tracy, Faith, and Gracie, Dominique, Tamika, Amy, Aquafina, Rosalind. I think he says Rosalind, but it's Rosalind, but nothing ever hit like Mary. And then, he goes on, Mona Lisa, Pam, Aisha, Stephanie, literally everyone.
Yeah, when you say name names, he named names.
Every single one. Tia, Demita, Frida, like he's going for everybody.
Keisha.
Gwen.
Shout out Gwen.
Jackie. So he's like, he goes through every name, but he has like, every one of them has like their own personality. They all do their own thing. This is 4 minutes, 30 seconds. But because of the structure of the song, again, it's a blues song, you can still sit in it and still like groove out to it because that's what a blues song does. But it's also evocative enough that each element still brings something to the table that you still want to listen through. This album is an hour long, but it's only like 14 songs.
Yeah.
Right? So you can kind of, if the songs are long and again, they got like a groove or they have a motif, that song has a big time motif when it comes to the names, that you can still listen to it and there's never a element where you feel tired or anything like that. So I think that part, like the song structure, his songs writing is really good.
And I think his song structure as well, because this to me feels like an album from the past. Of course, all like other than you naming Steve Lacy, all the artists I named are from a different time period.
Yeah. Like
Lenny Kravitz, Prince, D'Angelo. This album feels like it's from a different time period. Having all these songs that are like basically 4 minutes long, like when's the last time we had an album that had like 10 4-minute songs? Like
that's true.
That's just so unusual. And I think that is the production making that happen. I think the production, it not being just a loop of whatever the beat is, makes these songs like, oh, okay, there's something dynamic happening. I can listen to this. So for me, like his songwriting is strong. The production is strong. I'm a big fan of this album. Do you have anything else for lyrics before we talk about what this means for his career?
I don't really think so. I think most of his lyrics are very it's unremarkable in the way of what like the words that he says, but they're like the songs compile well into like really good songs. Like this is on Soft, right? This is at the very beginning. Like this is just to show you people. Like this is at the very beginning. He's like, what's this spell controlling me? I'm breaking down, think I need you. Flowers fall when you cross my mind. Sometimes I wish that I couldn't see because I undress you with the naked eye. Lose my mind, butterflies, Seems so strange, but I never complain because it feels like heaven. I can't lie. So there are poetic elements, right? Flowers fall when you cross my mind is that's that one is that was
put in the notes.
Yeah, yeah. I might have to put that one in the notes. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I think that he does some double entendres. You know, like because I undress you with the naked eye.
That's a bar.
So he's got these poetic lines in it as well. But not everything is like that. But it's still written strongly because it was talking about, you know, some of the songs sound like, you know, storytelling. And then I was giving you like this blues song with the motif. And now we got more poetic stuff. So there's a lot of different things. It's not just one thing. It's multiple things coming together in the album.
I think what he's done, and I think this is why this is a win for him for his career, is he's gotten the production to match the emotionality in his music. I think his music and his lyrics and his singing always been so emotionally driven. Like so emotionally driven.
Right.
And sometimes it felt like I could tell that you're feeling this, but I'm not really feeling this right now. And I think he somehow has blended those two together where it's like you can feel the emotional feeling in his singing.
Yeah.
And the production is kind of meeting him there. So for me, this is a plus for his career. I think that I don't know if there's a hit on here. I think that this sound, there hasn't been a hit from this sound of music in a while. Maybe if you want to include Bad Habit, because that is your boy Steve Lacy.
Yeah, Steve Lacy or Daniel Caesar.
But I think Bad Habit is way lighter than anything on this. And I think Daniel Caesar as well. Like this album is heavier production-wise than both of those guys. So
yeah, there's more things happening for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's a hit from here, at least not in the present. Listen, with TikTok,
anything can happen.
Anything is possible. But just quality of music, I think this is a win for him because I think that I learned this from when we did our poll asking you guys to let us know what album we should review. People were DMing me and letting me know who they were voting for. Like, oh, I didn't know so-and-so had an album out. And I think Lucky Daye has made it into the right subgroup of music listeners. I think if you see yourself as like, I know good music, I like good music, you probably are aware of Lucky Daye. So maybe you'll get a listen, you know, from those people, even if he's not a big artist. And I think those people who already like him and know him, for him to do something like this is a feather in his cap. Yeah,
he's going to get that. We talked about it. I think I mentioned at the beginning. It's like, oh, people who know music know who Lucky Daye is, right? Now he's getting the push of people who know good music are going to be like, yo, you got to be, you don't listen to Lucky Daye, you don't listen to music like that. He's going to get those people pushing this album because I think this album is really fucking good.
Yeah,
I was a little bit taken aback by how good it was considering his stature, right? So I think that I'm assuming that a new listener is going to have the same reaction as me, right? Because I've seen him once or twice around, but this is the first time I'm diving in and people are like, yo, this is really good. Like people are going to be pointing towards this being like his latest album is really good. So I think that there's going to be a bump. I'm predicting the bump.
I think you're right.
I'm predicting the bump.
He's part of what I said earlier of we're at a point where fame is almost more important than the music. Like when you said you thought he'd be bigger, like this is that. Like how good this album is, he should be a bigger artist.
Yeah.
And I think that who we reviewed earlier, they've never made an album this good.
Oh, wow.
It's a fact. It's a fact. They've never made an album this good. And so it's like the space between the quality of your music and your fame has never been bigger. Not just for Lucky Daye, but for just artists in general.
I agree.
And it's rare that we find someone who's like a mix of both. So we're speaking it into the world. Lucky Daye is going to get that bump.
Yeah.
He's going to grow into that bigger artist. Is this a cover that you like? I want to know how you feel about this cover.
I love this cover, but you know what I also realized by looking at it? It is literally the exact same thing as the Megan Thee Stallion cover. Like it almost looks the exact same.
As her last cover?
Yeah, she's not coming out of an egg, but
yeah, okay.
His arm is stretched out just like hers. There's the mirrored reflection in the ground. It's the white background. Right? It's very similar, right? I didn't even realize. I just realized that by like really, really looking at it, but it's really similar in that way. I think it looks really good. His bottom half is cut off, so it looks like he's probably like reaching over like a table or something like that. But I like the black and white. I wish it had more color just because the album is much more colorful than he's exhibiting. But I think it looks really good. Good look. Right, the hair is unique.
Yep.
Right, so unique hair. He's got the jewelry falling off of him too. it looks good. I think it looks really good.
I think this is actually a step up from his past album covers because I felt like Candy Drip was just doing way too much.
You didn't like that?
It was doing way I get it.
You're intimidated by his pictorial muscle. You look a little intimidated.
Don't forget who you're talking to. But I think that as a male R&B artist, there's always a part of your kind of artistry that's selling sex appeal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that he's one of those artists and of the new R&B group who probably does that the most in terms of actually selling it. I think people like Brent Faiyaz or Giveon, it's just the vibe they give.
Yeah,
and
aesthetic.
The aesthetic. It's not more of them like taking their shirt off and showing their muscles or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he found a happy medium with this one. I actually like the black and white because this is more of a retro sound in a sense.
Right.
And I think that if this album had come out 25 years ago,
this would be a big deal.
And this cover would be in color. I think coming out now, it's like this is like a throwback.
Yeah.
Sound. So I like this cover a lot. Is this a no skips?
I would say no.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I would say no, it's not a no skips. I think that the two songs that we didn't talk about, Pin and Top, those are two skips for me. And I would skip the Ray song. That's just a me thing, though.
Yeah, you're trying to turn up. You don't want to feel feelings.
Yeah. There's other but see, the thing is, there's other songs to feel feelings too on the project.
Not in the same way. Not
right.
The same
so
way.
I think that's the Ray song and Pin and Top, which I didn't really talk about because those are like so easily skipped for better, like really good songs. I'm like, it's not even really worth talking about them. So that's it. So I would say no, it's not a no skips, but we're looking at there's 14 songs.
Mm-hmm. So 12 you like?
12, 11, 12.
Mm-hmm.
I like.
I would say it is a no skips. I think some of these songs don't stand well on their own, but as a full project, like I can't see myself skipping any of these. Like this is definitely a project you could listen to all the way through, front to back. And I think, songs like Top and Pin. Top I like, Pin I'm a little iffy on.
Yeah.
But those songs is like, if I play this one song for you, you're probably not a Lucky Daye fan, but I play this whole album for you, I can't see you walking over to the phone and changing the song.
Right, I get you.
And so I think for me, that's what makes this a vinyl cop as well. Because this is an album I think sonically it's like almost my bread and butter, like that the trio of artists I named, like some of my favorite artists in history. Yeah. Maybe in a different life I had dreads and played guitar.
Yeah.
But I think this for me is a vinyl cop. I like the cover. The black and white is nice. And I think sonically, like exactly an hour, just a great album.
Yeah, I think it's a vinyl cop as well for literally the exact same reasons as you, except for it's like, I would pick up the needle maybe once or twice.
Pick up the needle is so nuts.
The thing has grooves in it for a reason. So, but other than that, I think that the cover is great. It plays like the sequencing is really good too. Mm-hmm. So it's a vinyl cop worthy cover, looking fantastic. All right, the moment all Lucky Daye's A&R has been waiting for.
I'm screaming.
And Lucky Daye, his A&R, and everybody else in the comments, the views, everything. This is the moment they all have been waiting for. Adriel. For Lucky Daye's Algorithm.
Yes.
What is your score?
This is a 9 out of 10 for me.
Wow.
One of my favorite albums of the year so far. I'm actually not a Lucky Daye fan, really, so this is like a surprise to me as well. But I don't have any big problems with this project. Like I originally had it at an 8.5. I thought to myself, I said, no, this is an album that I'll run. This is the kind of album where I won't know the names of the songs because I'll just be playing it like
in a row.
In full. And to have an album you'll play in full is rare in this day and age. So to me, this is a 9 out of 10. One of the best albums of the year. To me, I think this album is going to age amazingly. I think when we look back 5 months, 5 years to this project, this is going to be a moment that will be remembered by music lovers, but in music in general. I think this is going to be an album that changed the trajectory of R&B. I think that R&B hasn't done anything like this in a long time. Ooh. Yeah, no, I really feel that way. I think this is going to change the trajectory of R&B because I think that when someone like D'Angelo did this with Black Messiah 10 years ago exactly, D'Angelo had always been on his own type of time. Like you're not copying D'Angelo, nothing you can do. I don't think Lucky Daye is looked at like that. I think he's looked at in the morass of all the other artists. Like the Pink Sweats, the Giveons. Like, he's just in the group with everybody else. So I think that this is the album that sets him apart from that group, because I don't know who else from that group could make this album. And maybe you don't want them to make this album, but I think that no one in that group has shown they have the chops to do something as kind of bold as this. I think that the boldest move from any of the artists so far has been Brent Faiyaz and his love for no drums. But I think that this is the boldest move from anyone in R&B in a long time. And this is going to be on my top 10. I'm telling y'all right now, like, this is going to be on my top 10. I think a lot of heat has come out for it not to make my top 10. Mm-hmm. I didn't plan on being a Lucky Daye fan in 2024. That was not on my bingo card.
I know.
But if he goes on tour, like...
You're going to be at the tour?
We're pulling up. No, we're both pulling up.
I'm in?
Yeah, we're pulling up. If he goes on tour,
yeah,
we're pulling up. So this is a 9 out of 10 for me. A no skips, a vinyl cop. One of the best albums of the year so far.
Wow. Okay, so for me, Lucky Daye's Algorithm, this is an 8.5 out of 10. I thought this was really good. There's only a couple songs I really don't like, but I think the songwriting is fantastic. I think the song structure, again, the fact that he can even make a blues song and like recognize that I feel like he recognized that he was making a blues song.
Like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, so there's that. I think that the production is really solid. Again, I think the closest thing to him right now is maybe Steve Lacy or Daniel Caesar, right?
Yeah.
Or old Frank Ocean. And I'm talking nostalgia ultra type of Frank Ocean, right? So there's very few people that are really close to him. Even Daniel Caesar doesn't even make music that sounds like this anymore, right? And so yeah, I think that I agree that I feel like he struck on his own, but I don't know if I'm on the same ledge as you, where you're like he's changing, he's going to be a huge influence. But I will say I have made predictions. I did make the prediction about Playboi Carti, where I did say I'm like, yo, this is going to change music, and I was right. I do think that things like this are perceptible. Yeah. You can see it when it's happening. Like this is going to be a type of game changer type of album. We'll see whether or not Lucky Daye is that person. Yeah. You're staking that claim.
I think so.
I staked my claim on Playboi Carti, and I would like to say I was right.
You know, you're 100% right. Why I like this project so much is I think this is one for the musicians. Like if you're a musician or another artist, another R&B artist, like this album you were made aware of.
Right.
Like you're like, okay, this is what he's on. And I said this for about other artists is like, there are artists that other artists pay attention to more. Like
that's true.
Megan Thee Stallion is not one of them.
This guy's coming for Megan Thee Stallion today. Oh my goodness.
It's your fault. But
shout out to the hotties, man. Yeah. I'm still here for you.
Yeah. Hot girl shit.
Exactly.
But I think that he's one of those artists that even though he's not a big artist, other artists are aware of what he is and what he's doing. And I think
absolutely.
This is another reason to be aware of what he is and what he's doing. So
yeah, he might be the favorite artist type of territory.
That's where he's headed. So yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Me too.
Because if you saw the texts that like before this album came out, like Lucky Daye fans, I apologize. Like I
didn't. It was so bad.
No, like
well, for me it was non-existent. There wasn't any Lucky Daye text.
Me and Bridget were texting and I said no, Bridget says, this is not like him. These are actually good. Like that's how you know where we're at with Lucky Daye. So we were pleasantly surprised. Love the project. Let us know in the comments. Is this your first time listening to Lucky Daye?
Like me?
What do you think about the project? This is like if we had a most surprising category in our year-end pod last year, this would be probably at the top of that list this year.
Here's the thing. Should I go back and listen to the previous Lucky Daye albums? That's the question.
I'm not going to, so if you want to.
No, but I haven't. But you have, though. You have heard like his previous songs.
I don't think it's not like, I personally, knowing what you like, I don't think you'll like it that much. Okay. But you can if you want to. But like, to me, I'm going to live right here. Like, I'm living right here. My Lucky Daye fandom starts here. Okay. You know how my Zendaya fandom started at the Oscars in 2024? Right. My Lucky Daye fandom.
You're a little bit late. You're a little late on that.
Better late than never. But my Lucky Daye fandom starts with this project. So please let us know in the comments what you think. And is there a Lucky Daye song you want to suggest to Demar? Demar's in the comments, always comment creeping. Yeah. Suggest some songs to him. What songs should he bump? What songs should he listen to? Please let us know. Of course, follow us on the interwebs, on Instagram at Album Mode Pod, on TikTok at Album Mode Pod, on Twitter at Album Mode Pod. Of course, please and thank you follow us and subscribe to us on all your podcast platforms. And leave us a rating and a review. 5 stars, not a single star less. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Album Mode. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.